But I don't see her.
Well, it is probably your child's favorite subject in school, if you can call it that, or if you ask. And now it is the subject of the American pediatricians weighing in on the benefits of recess. Andy Choi joins us now with more.
Yeah, just 3 states here, Delaware, Virginia, and Nebraska, require elementary schools to hold daily recess. But now the country's top pediatricians are providing one pretty exciting doctor's note for kids hoping to get some fresh air.
Okay, if you are finished, I want you to clear off your desk. Throw your garbage away.
It's what makes up for those long days in the classroom.
Okay, why don't you go start getting your things on?
Mrs. Pierrick's first graders know when you work hard.
All right, children, let's go.
You need time to play hard.
They have a lot of energy, and it helps them to focus when they get back into the room. So they really need to get out here and move around.
The students at Our Redeemer Lutheran School enjoy 3 recess times, totaling 60 minutes of the school day.
You get all your energy out during recess, so you feel a lot better in class.
But more schools across the country are shortening, even eliminating recess altogether. It's why the American Academy of Pediatrics released a new policy statement calling recess a crucial and necessary component of a child's development, which should not be withheld for punitive or academic reasons. Exercise physiologists at St. Mary's Hospital say today's kids need recess more than ever.
I think that if you take away that recess, that's all the exercise activity they're going to get, especially with all the technology. Kids especially, just don't move anymore.
That's it.
And do we even have to ask the kids on their thoughts about cutting recess?
That would be a bad idea because of what some of the kids will think, and the angrier they get, probably the worse they're going to do.
And we don't want the kids angry. Numbers from the National Center for Education Statistics show nearly 3/4 of U.S. elementary schools hold less than 30 minutes of recess. About 10% have no scheduled recess at all.
And how about how well we would do if we got to sled?
Well, maybe we can head down Elver every 15 minutes.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to address you. My name is Tess Brennan. It is our obligation as adults to guide the children of Lee County toward healthy lifestyles. Having a lot of knowledge without the ability to focus and utilize that knowledge is chaos and useless. Most adults get an hour for lunch. Most also know they cannot go full throttle for extended periods of time without suffering burnout. As healthy adults, we realize the importance of time to relax and rebalance. Research has proven that these breaks relieve stress, increase productivity, and prevent potential health issues. I come to you as a parent, knowing we are all here to work together as a team for the best interest of our children. I also know that as a board, you must be interested in the performance of our students on assessments that give our schools their grades. Our children cannot be expected to be at full throttle for 6 to 7 hours a day. It's not healthy for adults, nor for our children. We are seeing the results of poor diet and sedentary lifestyles as research and media report almost daily. Our district is doing a great job at working to improve our children's nutrition through breakfast and improved lunch menus. This is our chance to model to our students the importance of movement and time to release and refresh their thoughts so they can return to the classroom ready to perform and use the knowledge gained from our exceptional teachers. Research shows our children retain information and perform better when given a 20-minute recess every day. Children with ADD find it easier to focus and concentrate. Children's memory of materials increases, and body mass index of obese children reduce when implemented. I am encouraged that San Carlos Park is looking into scheduling recess for all students in the next school year. However, if for any reason our principal was replaced, we run the risk of losing any progress that we've gained. Many parents were unaware that their students did not have recess. You just don't ask your child, "How was recess today?" when they get home. Others were told their school did have recess, only to discover it had been revoked to teach more minutes towards the test. We are here today to request that a 20-minute recess be built into every school day to give our children the tools to succeed, conflict resolution, how to interact with others in a less structured environment, a chance to move, and a chance for their little brains to rest from the information being delivered to them all day long. Please help us help our children in teaching them and modeling healthy lifestyles. It is my request that you would act on this matter tonight. And a fellow parent will be presenting a petition that we've circulated, and as of 6:30 we had 1,300 signatures, and they're still growing. Thank you.
Please hold your demonstrations of support until everybody is finished.
So the next speaker is Christine Ghali, I believe it is.
Hi there, good evening. I'm Christine Ghali. I'm a mom of 2 students in the Lee County school system, ages 9 and 6, and I've been asked to read this petition tonight on behalf of many of the parents that are here in support of advocating for recess to be policy. We, the undersigned, current and future parents and caregivers of students in the Lee County school system, taxpayers and residents of Lee County, petition the Lee County Board of Education to adopt into the Lee County school curriculum a scheduled time for all students in kindergarten and grades 1 through 8 to have daily recess periods 5 days per week for greater than or equal to 20 minutes as recommended by the CDC, of supervised, unstructured activity time, preferably outdoors, for the purposes of Florida Statutes 1000.02, 1011.61, and 1011.62, and the related rules and regulations by the State Board of Education. The recess required by this code section shall be considered as academic instruction. The Lee County Board of Education should establish policies to ensure that recess is a safe experience for students and that daily recess, greater than or equal to 20 minutes, is scheduled so that it provides a break supportive of academic learning. We support this petition for the following reasons. 1, that a growing number of elementary schools in Lee County, Florida no longer have daily recess. 2, that during the last 3 decades, the prevalence of obesity has tripled among persons aged 6 through 19 years. 3, that the benefits of exercise include building strong bones and muscles, reducing the risk of obesity and chronic diseases related to obesity, and promoting psychological well-being. 4, that the CDC recommends that all public schools follow the school health guidelines to promote healthy eating and physical activity, published September 16, 2011, which recommends at least 1 daily 20-minute period of recess to be provided to all students. 5, that children become progressively inattentive when deprived of a significant break of recess. 6, that Lee County District's practice of in-classroom brain breaks are not equivalent to the benefits of unstructured activity time. 7, that research has shown that children, especially those with attention deficit disorder, are more on task and less fidgety and have been shown to have improved memory after a break or recess. 8, that according to several new studies, students who had daily recess, outdoor activities, or other play opportunities were better behaved than their counterparts and more able to concentrate, even if they have ADHD, than their peers. 9, that research shows that children are active 59% of the time during recess. 10, that children who are inactive in school also tend to be inactive after school. 11, that substantial evidence indicates that physical activity can help improve.
Ms. Ghali, I'm sorry, your time is up. Okay.
Good evening. Good to see you back, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
I have my son with me tonight, this evening, because this issue directly affects him and his classmates. For those of you who have not met him, this is Sam, my very beautiful, bright, and brave man, young man. While we've been muddling through the bureaucracy to work toward making our district a world-class educational system, my son is racing away his childhood. In his 2.5 years in this public school system, Sam has never had the opportunity to play on a playground during his regular school day. While we are mandated to build and maintain playgrounds on our school grounds, we are not mandated to allow our children time to play on them. My son's daily schedule consists of 6 hours and 20 minutes of instructional time and testing, with a 25-minute break for lunch that includes travel. Please thank Sam and the other children who work tirelessly during each school day to practice and take assessments in order to provide funding for a free, appropriate public education in Lee County. We are here tonight to petition you, the Lee County School Board, to adopt into the Lee County school curriculum and to be considered as academic instruction a scheduled time for all students in kindergarten and grades 1 through 8 to have daily recess 5 days per week, equal to or greater than 20 minutes of supervised, unstructured activity time, preferably outdoors. With this petition, we present you with over 1,400 signatures from Lee County residents supporting this adoption. It's our desire that you will add our simple request to the good of the order tonight and vote to adopt this request into the instructional time for our children to begin as soon as possible and to continue the scheduled instructional time of the coming years. According to the statutes I noted, and I think you all received a copy of this, I hope. According to those statutes, our local board is required to provide a system that is student-centered in every facet. Our board has the right of local operational flexibility to add recess into the student's instructional time. In addition, with statute 1011.62, there is created a guaranteed allocation to provide these students with a free, appropriate public education in accordance with statute 1001.42.
Ma'am, excuse me, your time has expired. You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Mark Dodd, and I'm running for Lake County School Board, District 3. Public input at the July 28th school board meeting featured parents and doctors declaring their support of recess as a means to improve academic performance. As a parent, teacher at a high-performing school, and as a school board candidate, I support recess and see lots of benefits. It's not just about the exercise. Especially with the rigor of our curriculum, students need the mental break. It keeps them sharp. They need the chance to develop their social skills through unstructured but not unsupervised interactions with their classmates. I believe the school board needs to address the policy elements that make it hard for teachers to integrate recess into the school day. Thank you so much.
Interested to hear the comments about recess.
Hi, my name is John Eaglekey. I'm an SSAP teacher here at Gulfside Elementary. A couple years back we began letting the kids come out to recess before lunch, and the pluses that we found are the kids are able to come out of class, have their energy, play, and go in and have a real good lunch and go back to class very focused. When we had the kids going out to recess after lunch, quite the opposite. We've seen our behaviors reduced. We've seen the kids much happier.
I feel that recess before lunch is important because the kids come back to class much calmer and ready to learn. Also, the kids aren't complaining of stomach aches as much. And I feel that recess before lunch gives them time to build an appetite for their food, so they're eating more of their food.
So yesterday when I asked my kids if they liked recess before lunch, they said they loved it for a couple reasons. First of all, they don't get stomach aches anymore from rushing to eat their food quickly and going outside full. And then they said they like to come in and cool down and have something to eat, and they've worked up an appetite. And my point of view, I personally really like it because when I pick them up and come back in, they are calm and they're quiet, and we can get right into reading block. And there's no behaviors and no clinic passes or anything.
I was just loving the recess before lunch. The teachers actually like to take a break with their kids and be a real person and play with the kids and get to watch the kids play and be themselves.
Recess before lunch has done wonders for our school-wide discipline and positive behavior supports. The cafeteria behavior also is a lot better because kids aren't as hyper because they have already had the opportunity to run around and play. So therefore they're sitting there and appropriately socializing with their friends at the cafeteria.
And I've heard that personally as I've been out there, and frankly I don't know what the parameters are for having recess, not having recess, whose choice that is, how long a period of time it involves. But I would ask you, Dr. Graham, if you would please provide that information to me and the rest of the board members, either now or via memo.
I sent midday today a spreadsheet that tells you what each school is doing, and I thought after you all looked at that you might have some other questions, and this will be a conversation we will have K-8. At this point, I do believe outside of PE, it's a school-based decision.
Okay. We'll move to other business and board member comments. We'll begin with Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you. Dr. Graham, I would like to get some information from you and your staff as far as our testing and how we're testing in the district, what's mandated by the state, what we do, how much is total, and what it's costing the district. And if you'd like, I can give you a better breakdown in the morning by email of what I'm looking for, but I think we need to get a really good grasp on the testing because it seems like every time I turn around, it's test. And I'm hearing this from my kids, other parents, and I'm concerned with how much is from the state, how much we're doing, and how much it's actually costing us. Now another piece here. Children need recess because they are temporarily bored with their immediate classroom environment. When they go outdoors at recess, they seek novelty, interacting with different peers in different situations, but when the novelty of the recess environment begins to wear, they again need to change. And this is just one small article. I was Googling when some of the parents was up here talking, and start realizing there's a lot of research that backs up what they're saying. I'm not completely, I'm in favor of it. I think kids do need some type of break there. So I do support what they brought up.
With respect to recess, I appreciate what everybody is saying. I appreciate the research that's been done. I know that there are that children being able to take periodic breaks and exercise is important. On the other hand, I don't want to be a board that sets a policy that hamstrings the operation of the schools. I think this is a matter for SACs, for the school advisory committees. If parents are concerned, it needs to come to the school advisory committee. Parents have an opportunity, as do community members, to input into the curriculum and the activities of the school. I think that if those efforts are unsuccessful and parents and administration can't negotiate successfully, then maybe you want to move it up the chain. But I'm very reluctant to impose the board's will when I think the principals on site have the best knowledge about what's appropriate for the kids in their learning environment.
I want to thank all the parents that came here about PE, and I want to tell you that this is one of the issues that I have been talking about now for probably 10 or 12 years, because I think when the FCAT test began, that was the time that many schools chose to reduce or eliminate any type of PE for students. And I was concerned about it then. I'm concerned about it now. Therefore, I'm noticing the public and noticing my fellow board members that I'll be working with Mr. Martin, and I'm going to be bringing forth a recommendation, a motion at the next board meeting.
What can I say about recess except that I'm going to fully support whatever you bring forward? There's so much research out there, and common sense will tell us that recess is much needed for many reasons. But I'll tell you that it contributes to children's health, it contributes to the ability to concentrate, and all in all, I will tell you that 20 minutes built into a day would definitely result in increased academic achievement.
When there's activity and their brains are engaged and they're allowed to have that activity, they're going to build up the need to eat. Kids are kids. They want to play and they want to eat. And those are the two things that they can count on every day.
For years, students have followed the same lunch schedule. Eat first and then go outside for recess. But today, schools across the country are questioning and changing that old routine. Recess Before Lunch is a new program that is gaining support for its innovative approach that better suits the kids and their teachers.
Recess Before Lunch has been incredibly successful in our district. Majority of the teachers that I've spoken to love it.
I would definitely recommend Recess Before Lunch because it just keeps the kids focused. When they come in from lunch, they're not wound up, they've kind of calmed down, they've had that chance to talk with their friends, and it's much easier to get them focused and ready to go.
We felt it was important for the kids to leave the classroom and have an opportunity to expound some of that energy and be better prepared and hungry to come back into the cafeteria and eat.
What I like about it is that way recess before lunch I can get an appetite ready and then I'll be ready to eat.
Here's how Recess Before Lunch works. When it's time, students line up to go to the playground. After recess, the kids head to the cafeteria. On their way, the students clean their hands to scrub away those nasty germs. Once inside, they sit down and enjoy their nutritious lunches and relax with their friends. When lunch ends, they head back to their classrooms calm and ready to learn.
What happens when you don't have recess before lunch is children rush through their meal and they will just want to go and play, so they don't focus on their lunch. When they come back from the playground, then there's more tummy aches and it's hard to get them ready to study and learn.
There were a lot of pushing, shoving, falling down, a lot of aggravation out on the recess, not wanting to line back up because they weren't ready to come in.
Within a week, we had half of our staff was already commenting, our kids are calm, they're ready to learn, there's no arguing and bickering. They've gotten that all out before they came to lunch.
The recess before lunch lets them get out their willies, they play with their friends, then they come back to lunch, they sit, relax, eat a meal, get their bathroom breaks, their drink breaks, and then they come right into the classroom and are ready to learn.
Last year when we didn't have recess before lunch and we had recess after lunch, everybody was still like thirsty and they had to use the bathroom and stuff. But now we just sit down and we get back to work and it's easier that way.
Students eat more fruits and vegetables, drink more milk, and waste less food at schools that schedule recess before lunch.
Before recess, before lunch, a lot of times they wouldn't take in milk at all. They would just opt for the entree and a fruit or juice. So now I find that they are drinking a lot more milk.
They're thirsty and they're hungry, so they're looking at the food, they're taking the milk, and they're taking more fruits and vegetables.
School staffers have noticed an increase in healthy eating among students, plus a decrease in visits to the school clinic.
When we first started recess before lunch, we weren't quite sure what the impact was going to be at the school level. And I actually stopped one day and talked to a clinic assistant.
and she was very, very surprised at the decline in the number of students coming down to the clinic.
I noticed less, absolutely 100% less stomachache and nausea because they used to come to the clinic. I threw up, I have feeling I gonna throw up, because they eat and they run. They're little, they're kids.
Changing the recess and lunch schedule, however, raises some practical concerns.
There really hasn't been any type of concern that we haven't been able to address.
The schedule had already been in place, so all we had to do was take the schedule and just flip the times and the activities. So instead of the time going straight to the cafeteria, we switched that to the time for recess. So it was minimal change to the schedule.
The recess before lunch program did not require a whole lot of work, just some problem solving as far as what is this going to look like, how do we make that shift, that mind shift from recesses always after lunch to recesses before lunch, and then just some organization to make sure that there's no overlaps on the playground, which has actually fixed itself, and then the hand washing issue, which we've worked through too. So it really did not require a whole lot of problem solving. It's been an easy transition, surprisingly so.
So what are you waiting on? Here's how to get started. First, do some research about recess before lunch and how the program works at other schools. Second, review potential challenges to change in your current schedule so you can troubleshoot any issues. Third, create an implementation plan with input from school staff and teachers. Fourth, be patient and recognize that new programs take time to be successful. In the end, it will be worth it. And finally, celebrate your success by showcasing the school's innovation and leadership to parents, the community, and others from area schools.
If you want to reduce your discipline, if you want to increase your food consumption, if you want to maintain the continued transition from classroom to recess to have fun, to the cafeteria to eat, and then calm down enough to come back into the classroom, recess before lunch is the program you really, really need to try.
Okay, that being the case, is there anybody who filed a blue card with respect to, how many cards do we have with respect to recess?
Last count, I think it's approximately 17.
Is there anybody who filed a blue card regarding recess who would like to stand in recognition of support for the issue of recess and not address the board separately? Those who would like to withdraw their blue cards and stand or just stand in support of recess, please do so now. And how many of you filed cards? Just one. Okay, thank you very much.
Next speaker is Ms. Tess Brennan.
Evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Tess Brennan. My daughter will be second grader at San Carlos Park Elementary, and I come to you this evening on the item of recess, as I'm sure you're already aware. There were some things that I wanted to share. As I spent the last 3 weeks researching this, I've been researching it longer than that, but researching it amongst the other parents in our district and our county. And it's come to my attention that I'm not alone. I have 17 different schools that I know that I've heard from parents on the recess issue. Many of them do not have recess. Some of them were told they did have recess, but their children did not receive it throughout the year, or at different times it was revoked for different reasons. We come to you with a unified, simple request. 20 minutes of unstructured recess for all K through 8 students, as the research has shown, is so important. Number 2, recess cannot be revoked for disciplinary reasons. When you revoke that important free time from the students who are disruptive, you are eliminating the important time for them to express themselves, release pent-up energy, and reset their brains to absorb that information from our amazing teachers. They also continue to act out throughout the day and cause disruptions and distractions for other students in the classroom, as we're seeing now when they're not getting that break every day. By the time Friday rolls around, it's crazy to try and keep these kids in their seats, and I don't blame them. Number 3, recess and PE are both necessary, but they're also separate entities. PE is meant to be a time of instruction. Recess is a time to reset and release. All students in Lee County deserve a daily break. The adults who are imposing no recess policies at these schools do receive breaks throughout the day, yet expect our students to go without. 5, there's no research supporting an increase in health, educational improvement, or improved test scores from recess being revoked.
Thank you, Ms. Brennan. Your time.
Good evening. To our distinguished superintendent, distinguished board members, community members, parents, teachers, I'm coming before you today as a parent. And I wanted to speak on the importance of recess. Not only am I a parent that stays home and my primary goal is the well-being and support of my family, but as a community member, I saw myself as somewhat aware, involved, and informed with the activities of our school system. And it was a shock to me to find out from my daughter that they no longer had recess. And I didn't understand the importance of that because I was aware that they had physical education. So my 11-year-old went on to explain to me the importance of recess and how it was different from PE. So she stressed the fact that this is a period of socialization, where they get to interact with their friends, where they get to be kids again, where they get to plan their weekend and plan their activities, where their parents are going to be supervising them to take them to their different events. So for me as a parent, it seemed really important once I heard my daughter stress the fact that this was something she feels was a real loss in terms of her socialization and peer interaction. So I'm standing before you, standing before the board, saying as a parent, I thought it was important for you to hear my 11-year-old stress the importance of the importance of recess in her own words, because that's what I experienced as a parent, a realization that this meant so much to her that she was willing to overcome her fear of public speaking just to express how important recess is to young people.
Next speaker is Erica Clare.
Hello, my name is Erica Clare. I just completed the 6th grade at Calusa Middle School, so next year I will be in 7th grade. I would like to thank the school board for giving me the opportunity to express my views.
Just a second.
And my friends' view.
Proceed.
And my friends' view that we're not able to be here tonight. I asked to speak to you today, even though I don't like public speaking, but I think recess is that important. I know we are in school to get a good education, but it is important for us as students to be able to focus and retain what we have learned. I really enjoy school and most of the classes, but within all of the testing and stress, recess is important for students because it allows us to rest, talk with our friends, and not think about schoolwork. However, recess is my time, where we do and think what we want to. And I think everybody deserves to take a break and just relax. Recess is the time that we get to talk to each other, and believe it or not, when we come back from recess, we are more relaxed and focused. So I would like to ask the school board to put recess back into our school day. Thank you so much for your time.
Good.
Good evening. I am here to speak on behalf of the students of Lee County to ensure that they get their 20 minutes of unstructured recess in grades K to 8. I am a teacher, and my student will be entering kindergarten in 2.5 years. I just want to say, all I ever needed to know, I learned on the playground. I learned to take turns. I learned how to wait my turn. I learned how to be a leader.
Let's just pause for a minute.
Sure.
Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just sent someone back there to ask them to pay attention. So
okay.
Would you like me to start over? Anyways, lessons I learned on the playground. I learned to take turns. I learned how to wait my turn. I learned how to be a leader. I learned how to follow directions. I learned how to include others. I learned how to trust my instincts, and I learned how to resolve to become a problem solver. I learned how to follow rules. I learned how to play on a team, and I used my imagination. None of these skills were learned at my desk. None of them were in a textbook, and none of them were on a computerized test. At no time in my career has anyone asked me what my FCAT score was, what my SAT score was, or what my LSAT was. They asked me questions like, can you be a team leader? Can you multitask? Can you follow directions? Can you trust your instincts? Are you a problem solver? Was I career ready thanks to my time on a playground? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here as a parent and as a former employee here at the Lee County School District. I understand that recess is a site-based decision and that a lot of that responsibility falls on the principal and the assistant principals, and oftentimes they are looked at as the bad guys that are imposing some of these policies that don't allow the kids to go out on the playground and all of that. And yes, as it may be a site-based decision, it's impossible to implement things like recess when unreasonable demands are passed down from the district. So when testing and testing calendars and test prep are being pushed on administrators and teachers, there isn't any time to give these kids recess. So I'm a parent also. My daughter will be entering kindergarten next year, and I'm very excited about it. And I have seen many of the classrooms in this district, and we have unbelievable schools and teachers and students and superintendents and board members. But the problem is that there are some unreasonable demands being passed down to the schools, making it impossible for them to implement things like recess. I'm here today to ask you to back off some of these demands, start giving teachers, administrators, and principals autonomy within their schools and allowing them to put in place certain policies that help students. I can't believe I'm here begging for recess. I can't believe we all have to come here and beg for recess. Every day I take a yoga class. Every day I go for a run. Because if I don't, I'm completely scattered and unfocused. And my own daughter, who will be entering this system, will not have that same benefits. And I'm not saying to implement yoga, although that would be awesome. We need to give these kids time on the playground. It's just basic. It's common sense. I don't understand why we're here begging for it. Please do the right thing and give our kids 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes isn't even enough. They should get an hour, but we're asking for 20 minutes. Do the right thing, Lee Schools. Thank you.
Next, Miss Rita Giddens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rita Giddens, and I have a daughter that will be going into first grade at Three Oaks Elementary. And I want to say, first of all, thank you. We actually had her in a private school prior to enrolling her at Three Oaks, and we're really disappointed with her last year at that school and decided at the last minute that we wanted to go with the public schools, which was what I had always grown up in. And it was the right move. So thank you. You guys are doing a good job. It's been a great school. It's been a great experience. We had a phenomenal teacher. She was everything we could have dreamed for in a teacher as parents. But like you've already heard many times tonight, of course, the one thing missing is moving forward at Three Oaks Elementary. She will no longer have recess. As it was just stated, coming from Michigan, or other parts of the country, I guess, it never occurred to me that recess would not be a part of my daughter's school day. It seems so counterintuitive to everything we know about the benefits of recess and letting them have this unstructured play. So finding out we didn't have it was really disappointing, and I'm surprised that we have to be here asking for it. It seems so obvious that it's something our children need, and it's just 20 minutes a day, as Tess stated earlier. 20 minutes a day, we would ask that it can't be taken away from them as punishment. Those are usually the kids that need it most. And recess and PE are both necessary but very separate. Recess is unstructured, and that's when they learn those phenomenal social skills and problem-solving strategies. And lastly, I would really like to ask you guys to take a leadership role in this. I know that currently it falls to the principals and the administration at the schools. You guys are in positions of leadership to make hard decisions. I hope this isn't one of them. I hope this is an easy decision for you guys. But if you could take a leadership role in this and tell the schools that this is something that our kids need, we would really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Support her. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is student recess. I think it's incumbent upon this board. I think that the parents have spoken. I spoke to my daughter, and I said, "Don't you have lunch?" And she said, "No, Papa." She said, "It's not what we need." And I just want this board to explore. You gave it to, as one of the speakers said, a site-based decision. I think it's now time for the board. We've already addressed the issue, or this board, this district has addressed the issue that you're not going to learn unless you're fed. You've
Thank you, Mr. Torby. Your time is up, sir. Angela Salander.
Hi, I want to take the time and say thank you for listening to us parents fighting for recess. I'm here for recess. This is Tanner. He's going to be 4th grade. I'm switching him from Hector Cafferat to Tropic Isles, and one of the reasons is for recess. I never knew he didn't have recess. He would come home with headaches. He was diagnosed with migraines. It's very hard to see your 9-year-old come home so tired, so stressed out, because it's work, 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 work. They walk in the hall, it's silence. They sit in the cafeteria for lunch, they have assigned seats. They go to PE, it's more than one class, it's very structured, there's no downtime. So by the time he got home, he was just out, had a migraine, would go to bed for the evening. Hopefully, he didn't get up throwing up that evening, if we were lucky. Get up, do the same thing the next day. It's very heartbreaking. There are other days he'd come home and he was so off the wall because all he did was sit all day. He didn't want to do his homework, he just wanted to go out and play. So we had to come up with a solution that we had to sit down, do our homework, and then we could go out and play, because if we didn't do that, it was very hard to get him in and get him back in that frame of mind of doing homework. And on the other hand, I felt bad because that's all he did all day, and I wanted to give him that break. I've had 3 other children that go to FGCU. I have 3 other children that go to FGCU. All 3 of them have recess. They're very well-rounded kids. I see a difference in him. He doesn't have a whole lot of the social skills because he doesn't get to go out and talk to friends. He doesn't get to solve problems. Whenever there's a problem with a friend in the class, I have to email the teacher and say, hey, there's a problem. And she had agreed, well, this is because they don't get the time to interact and say, hey, you're my friend, why did you call me that name? Or you're my friend, why did you do that? Can we be friends again? That type of thing. And those are the skills that our kids are losing. My other children, they have those skills, no problem. This one, not at all. And I'd hate to see our kids lose that. I hate to see our kids stressed out. Looks like the testing's going to get even worse.
Thank you, Ms. Salander. Your time's up, ma'am.
Good evening. First, please excuse my appearance. I've come right from Scout Camp, where I've been able to see the benefit of boys being able to both sit and learn skills and run around and be kids. My name is Shannon Tardy. I'm a mother of 2 Calusa Elementary boys, ages 6 and 9. My background is in child psychology, and I have a master's in school counseling, so I'm coming to you from both the perspective of parent and educator. When my family moved to Lee County from New England 2 years ago, we were faced with school choice in mid-July. I did as much research as I could to try to find the best school for my then 2nd grader. Luckily for us, we were able to get our first choice right before school began. And I'm still happy with this choice, but for one thing, Calusa lacks regularly scheduled recess time. When doing my Lee Schools research, I didn't even think to ask whether or not a school has recess because in my mind and with my background, recess would be an absolute given at every elementary school. The teachers at Calusa are given the option to take recess on non-PE days, which is every other day, but because it's an option, not all teachers are able to take advantage of this, and unfortunately for my two boys, their teachers did not exercise this option frequently. My request is that we ensure all students of Lee County elementary and middle schools are receiving daily, unstructured, free time, preferably outdoors, where they can take a break from curriculum and just be kids. We need to be sure that we define recess differently from physical education, because we need both. And we need to give our schools the support they need to implement this recess period. It's been suggested that we work within our schools' SAC committees to address this issue. And my fear is that without board action, we will continue to be inconsistent with ensuring recess throughout our district. I'm sure that we can find creative ways to implement daily recess and to help our children find a positive balance between being a pupil and being a child. And I feel that this would best be reached through a board decision. Thank you.
Kelsey Lewis.
Hello, good evening. I'm coming to speak to you as a first grade teacher. I also have two littles who will be coming into the public system within the next couple of years. And so my desire is to see this recess issue change before they enter into the public system. We chose public school for my kids because public schools are where it's at. It's the promise of our democracy, okay? And so as a first grade teacher, let me explain to you, my classroom, it has no windows in it at all, so we don't even get to see the sunshine in during the day, okay? So first of all, for me and my kiddos, it's a chance to get outside, see the sun, and take a break from that interior classroom. First graders, we test with just the district and state test requirements. We're testing 40 out of 180 days, and that does not include school-based decision assessments like fluency assessments or spelling tests or vocabulary quizzes. So if we're testing 40 days off of district and state mandated tests, that means that equivalates to my students testing every 4 days, okay? Just on state and district tests. They need a break. They're 6 and 7. Okay, they're babies, but they're expected to be held to assessments that even as an adult, I would be stressed out about. With the changes that have happened in kindergarten, as kindergarten has gotten more rigorous, expecting them to be able to read by the time they leave and be able to add and subtract by the time they leave kindergarten and enter into first grade, that means that the social structure, the social skills that those kiddos learned in kindergarten is no longer prevalent. The only time for these kids to learn is at recess. And let me tell you, as a teacher, it gives me an opportunity to get to know my students, not as students, but as people. I get to know what they like to do. I get to hear about their day. I get to hear about how their families are functioning, if they ate that morning, if they're not going to eat that night. I don't get to do that when I'm standing and instructing them or working on reading or fluency skills with them in the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Your time is up, ma'am. Kennard Margolin.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you, Dr. Graham and board members, for this opportunity to speak to you again tonight. I also am here to speak on quite a few issues, so I'm going to run through them probably pretty quickly. First of all, Dr. Graham, I saw you dressed up as Batwoman, and it brought a huge smile to my face. I'm sure you know that I run an organization, or help run an organization of 45,000 teachers nationwide, and we use the word BAT as our acronym. So I wore my bat wings for you tonight. And I think that to wear those bat wings, we have to be worthy of it. And I think you're doing a good job standing up for our county, and I'd like to see that happen and continue to happen. And I say that since the last time I've been here, I got an email on my parent link telling me that there have been meetings set up for the public with the strategic planning. And I very much appreciate that you're going to allow us and all parents to be there. So I hope all of us will join. And any representatives that we might have in the room, that would be nice as well. I also stand here today in support of recess. And let me just put it a little bit differently. I'm the union rep at the school where I teach. If one of my employees came to me and said that our employer was making them work 8 hours a day without a break, it would be a labor issue. Exactly that. I would call it some sort of unfair labor practice, and I would address you, and I imagine you would work with me because you always do. So I think we really need to look at our children and say, if we're going to protect our employees, let's protect our children. I brought my 9-year-old here today, and she wants recess at least 20 minutes a day every day until she's an 8th grader. I teach 8th grade, and I also don't have windows in my classroom. You can imagine that at 15 years old. It can be interesting. Now, also as a teacher, I know looking at it from the other side, where are we going to fit recess in with all this testing? So even more so than ever before, and even with this new state testing schedule that came out this week and seems to have more tests on it than before. And I know that's not your fault. I know that's the fault of our representatives and our senators that voted for that, and we plan to address that with them. But we need some help, and I thank you for trying, and I appreciate it, and I'll see you at those meetings, and I invite all parents to join me. Thank you.
Natalie Simper.
Good evening. I'm probably going to be very redundant here. I too am a parent, and I'm also a teacher as well. I have not taught. We moved from Indiana 4 years ago, and since we've been here, I've been staying at home with my 4 children. I have a high schooler at Estero High School. I have one daughter who's in 8th grade at Bonita Springs Charter School, and I have 2 little ones who will be entering Pinewoods Elementary in the next year or so. I have a master's degree in education, and when we moved from Indiana to Florida, it was not for the school systems. I will say that there's a very poor reputation when people talk about Florida school systems, and so it was a big concern of mine coming from Indiana and teaching at one of the top schools in the whole state. So far, my experience has been pretty good, but my biggest red flag I've seen so far is obviously this recess issue. It's shocking to me, and as well as to so many others. And I just want to list 10 reasons. I've done some research. I could stand here forever saying all the research that shows that you should have recess. But children are less fidgety and more on task. They have improved memory, more focused attention. They develop more brain connections. They learn negotiation skills. All of this is from having recess. Exercise leadership. They teach games. They take turns, learn to resolve conflicts. The natural light improves wellness, since some people don't even have windows. Recess helps reduce stress. That gets them more physically active. It's an opportunity to develop their imagination and critical thinking skills, and it is fun. Where is the fun in our schools? I want my children to love to learn, to love education, to want to go every day, and want to be part of, their activities in class, and just have it be a great environment. And I just want to close on saying, I heard a lot of times that it's left up to the schools, but this is obviously not working. I urge you tonight, please, 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 this has to be a mandate. This has to come down from you. The schools are going to keep facing the same exact problem. Time and time again, a principal is going to come in and feel differently towards the situation. So, thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for taking time to listen to our cause. My name is Meredith Schuler, and I am a mother of 3, a 3.5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a little 3-month-old. My children will be attending San Carlos Park Elementary. From what I understand, San Carlos Park Elementary only allows kindergarten 10 minutes of recess, and that includes travel time to and from wherever they're playing. And 1st through 5th do not get recess. I stand up here this evening asking you to please bring recess back. Please consider at least 20 minutes of recess per day for all children in K through 8. Please do not allow teachers or administrators to take away recess for any disciplinary reasons. These children are usually the ones who need recess the most. And at this point, I don't know if I have one of those children. I may. Please understand that recess and physical education are separate entities, and both are extremely necessary for our children. Lastly, I hope you have read the research that supports the need for recess. There's no research that states the removal of recess improves learning. This issue is so important to me, I'm here asking for support before my children are even in the school system. I'll end a quote from Mr. Fred Rogers. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood. Thank you.
Lindsey Brown.
My name is Lindsey Brown, and my children attend San Carlos Park Elementary. I had a third grader and a kindergarten student there. My son Miles had a wonderful kindergarten year, and every day he came home from school, the first things that he would tell me about was the race that they had on the kindergarten playground, who was first place, who was second place. He was usually first place. He would also tell me all the kids in his class and what their favorite sports teams were. He knew who liked the Packers, who were his buddies with the same top teams. The worst part of his day was usually eating lunch in the cafeteria and being concerned about being too loud when talking to his classmates, having to change the color of their cup from green to yellow to red, and then if they got the red cup, losing their recess time. Okay, that was the worst part, was the fear of socializing too much or too loudly and then losing his opportunity to socialize and interact and run with his friends. My profession is a speech-language pathologist, and from that side of things, the social skills are very important. The kids learn how to form friendships, they converse, they share, they take turns, they problem solve, they work together in teams, they tell stories, they understand and use humor and figurative language. Those are skills that are taught and perfected on the playground. I think it would be ridiculous to hear that the schools don't have time for reading instruction or that they don't have time for lunch every day. It's just as ridiculous that there's no time in the day for our kids to have recess. Thank you.
Those were all the cards, Ms. Morgan.
Thank you. I believe several board members are planning to comment this evening on the recess question. I think we've heard enough from the audience, and I think there were people I
There were
missed.
two hands, I believe, yes.
There were, yes. Where are those?
There's one.
Good evening, Mr. Martin, Dr. Graham, and school board members. I am coming to you on behalf of the students and the teachers. Am I loud enough?
Please state your name, ma'am.
Oh, you need to know who I am. Please excuse me. Protocol. I am Pam LaRiviere.
Thank you.
A retired teacher just recently after 31 years. And I'm banking in on some of my experience to share how I feel and what I believe needs to be happening in the classrooms with regards to developmentally appropriate instruction and assessment. We have been under the constraints of the Race to the Top grant that we had received to develop district-wide assessments. Those district assessments that were developed, while the intent was very good, but that was the constraint of the grant. The grant money could not go for classroom instruction. The grant had to go for those pieces. And now we're having the ramifications of those assessments. Students are being tested too much, especially elementary school students who are being tested weekly in math and in reading, and they don't really have the opportunity to get the feedback on that. The time that is spent on preparing students for a test and taking the test actually keeps our teachers from teaching to the very best art form that they have. Our students are reaching a point of frustration. When I was in my classroom, we'll go back 10 years ago. FCAT was right there. I had an administrator who was telling me, Pam, do that test prep. I did it. My class never knew what I was doing. And I never discussed FCAT. They never knew or talked about the test till right before the test came. Right now, it's right there in front of them, and it's doing our students a big, big disservice. I really believe that Lee County can be the change agent. I would like to see some way that we as a school district can move beyond that and come up with a plan, come up with a way that we will encourage developmentally appropriate instruction, assessments that actually cause us to look at the student work and decide how we'll teach. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Dodd, and I'm running for Lake County School Board District 3. Public input at the July 28th school board meeting featured parents and doctors declaring their support of recess as a means to improve academic performance. As a parent, teacher at a high-performing school, and as a school board candidate, I support recess and see lots of benefits. It's not just about the exercise. Especially with the rigor of our curriculum, students need the mental break. It keeps them sharp. They need the chance to develop their social skills through unstructured but not unsupervised interactions with their classmates. I believe the school board needs to address the policy elements that make it hard for teachers to integrate recess into the school day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now I will comment. First of all, with respect to assessment, we did have a conversation with Dr. Graham this afternoon, and she has assured the board that she will be reporting out on the work that was done this year by the district to look at assessments, the alignment of assessments with state mandated testing and everything else, and that there will be some changes in the assessment regimen for the district. With respect to recess, I know that several board members are planning to bring that up and discuss it during the board member comment section of the meeting. I think we've heard enough from the public and from emails, correspondence from community members that I think it's safe to say we need to direct the superintendent to prepare some sort of a conversation for us about the issue of recess. So thank you all for your comments.
My grandson actually is very young. He's not old enough for school yet, but he's attended Montessori, and he never has talked about play. He's always talked about work, because the Montessori way is everything is work. Like if he's putting blocks together, that's his work. And I'm so glad that somebody, and I don't remember who it was, that said that to children, play is serious learning, and that play is the work of children, and it is the work of children. And which brings me to what and where I'm going this evening. I've listened to a lot of parents. I've listened to everyone around the issue of recess, and I'm going to tell you that I sit here, I've been sitting here on this board for quite a while, and I have had numerous conversations with different superintendents about recess. In fact, when I was first elected to the board and I went out into schools and found out from teachers and from parents that recess did not occur at some schools, I was very disturbed by that, and I brought it up to different superintendents. And I did tell Dr. Graham that I was going to be making a motion this evening, because it is very near and dear to my heart. And as the one lady said, I want you to know that you've had a meeting tonight and you've already had 2 recesses. Well, you know, as adults, we are not expected to sit for 8 hours a day in a cubicle or at a desk and do work without any type of break. Children should not be subjected to that either, because as I told Dr. Graham, I think that is making too many children want to drop out of school early. So, with that being said, board members, I am prepared. I've worked with Mr. Martin, and I am prepared to bring a motion to the table. I want to thank Dr. Graham for the information that she presented us on elementary recess for the 2014 school year. However, after some of the parents have spoken, some of the data that we have is incorrect. It's not exactly the way it should be. I had counted this out of 49 schools that reported to us. There were only 14 schools that actually did not have recess according to this data. But after listening to parents, and after parents at several different schools tonight, and I circled those schools, I'm not going to call those schools out, but they said, my child doesn't have recess, or my child did not have recess until after kindergarten. Well, that's not what we asked for. We wanted to know recess across the board. And you know, last week when all these parents were so passionately speaking, I actually had a teacher that texted me and said, we have recess at our school every day. And So I'm prepared to make a motion this evening, and I certainly hope that my fellow board members will give me support. I would like to make a motion that the school board direct the superintendent to work with district staff and school administrators to review elementary school practices concerning the provision of recess and develop a process to establish a time period for recess at every elementary school with no less than 15 minutes. Madam Chair, you have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Other comment? Mr. Scott?
Well, recess is, and parent concerns about lack of it, controlled in my email for the last 2 weeks. And I was disturbed to find that we were not providing opportunities for students in the elementary grade to have a recess opportunity every day. I can get going on what I believe comes out of Tallahassee in terms of requirements for every school district in the systems and the things that we are obligated to do to satisfy. I will call them, sometimes they're wins, and it eats away at our ability locally to manage a school district dedicated to children and building them as whole people. So I'm going to be supportive of what Mrs. Dozier is recommending because I think it needs to go back into place. 15 minutes in a day is not going to make somebody a great test taker. And I hope we all get our backs up here pretty shortly and start arguing back with some of the stuff that comes down the pike from Tallahassee, imposing on our students requirements that in the long haul are not going to be very productive for them at all, when maybe 15 minutes out in the sunshine every day, and as Ms. Fisher said a while ago, allows kids to develop skills and how to relate to each other, and may take away some of this other stuff that we're having to deal with every day in schools, which is negative. And so I'm going to be supportive.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes, and hooray, Mr. Scott, for saying that. I think it's really important that we do look at this issue and that we do stand up and say enough is enough with the amount of testing and the amount of time and emphasis that we're putting on it to the detriment of the health of our children. So I will be supporting this.
Mr. Armstrong?
I will be supporting this 100%.
Okay. And I will also, I just want to agree with Mrs. Fisher on letting parents know that there was no recess. I'm also concerned about recess, the loss of recess as a punishment. I am concerned about mandates, and I don't believe the board should mandate anything with respect to the educational program without the input from the superintendent, and I appreciate that Mrs. Dozier has put together what I feel is a good motion that involves the various stakeholders. And
It's fun, it's healthy, it's recess. After a morning of classes, kids are ready to play. Elementary schools all across the country are starting to schedule recess before lunch. By having recess before lunch, students tend to make better choices about what they eat. Students consume more food and nutrients, and they drink more milk so they can have strong bones. With this new schedule, students are less likely to be hungry or sick in the afternoon, and they come back to the classroom more prepared and ready to learn. All of the teachers agree. Their students are more focused and making better grades because they are settled and ready to learn. You'll notice their improved behavior. Inform school faculty and staff, parents, students, and the community of the reasons for the change in order to build support. So what are you waiting for? Do your research. Recess before lunch. Coming to a school near you.
So I will be
What is
supporting
here?
it all.
And our,
Yes, Ms. Megan.
I believe that there's a reason why we're called the Sunshine State, and it's because children should be able to enjoy the sun, especially for those classrooms that have interior and no windows. And it is very important to younger children for their developments, for their prefrontal cortex, and for their body, for them to go out and enjoy the sun and get that social skills. Because I can't tell you how many times jobs have asked, so why should we put you on our team? Not what's your SAT score. We should be looking at those things.
Amen.
Thank you.
Good job, Megan.
Well, thousands of parents petitioned begging for Lee County School Board to bring back recess for their children. Some schools did away with it this past year. Tonight, parents dressed in red, they packed tonight's school board meeting as school board members listened to their pleas.
We have a motion. Mrs. Dozier, would you read the motion again, please?
I would like to make a motion that the school board direct the superintendent to work with district staff and administrators to review elementary school practices concerning the provision of recess and develop a process to establish a time period for recess at every elementary school with no less than 15 minutes.
I have the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
In the end, the parents prevailed. Come August, all Lee County elementary students will get back recess with some rules, though. NBC2's Charlie Keegan explains.
I can't believe we all have to come here and beg for recess.
One mother after the next.
It was a shock to me to find out from my daughter that they no longer had recess.
Parents and some teachers packed the house wearing red to get mandatory recess reinstalled in Lee County schools.
It's very hard to see your 9-year-old come home so tired, so stressed out, because it's work, 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 work.
Last month, parents presented a petition signed by more than 1,300 people asking the school board to grant their K through 8th grade children 20 minutes of free time. Tonight, even some school board members donned red in support.
I'm prepared to make a motion this evening, and I certainly hope that my fellow board members will give me support.
The school board unanimously approved the motion, asking the superintendent to work with principals to set aside at least 15 minutes of recess a day for K through 5 students. Last year, principals got to decide who got recess.
I am just so excited and elated that they heard our request.
Tess Brennan led the charge. She calls tonight a big win and points to the fact that young children need a break from the classroom to let their imaginations and their built-up energy run wild. Something parents say students don't get in structured physical education classes.
PE is meant to be a time of instruction. Recess is a time to reset and release.
In Lee County, Charlie Keegan, NBC2.
I have copies of 6 copies of 6 more.
Thank you.
So my kids actually go to the Villages Charter School, but I guess I'm part of Leesburg, so I consider this my community. I'm a medical oncologist and I do research too. So I go to a lot of meetings. I can tell you it's very hard to stay in a meeting for 8 hours without taking a coffee break and lunch break. And one of the hardest things to bring doctors back to the meeting is after you give them a break, because they need that break. So actually this is one of the best, because they had a problem at the Villages Charter School where they didn't have recess in their kids' class, and I did my research. I went to the board there and I presented this data, because I believe you have to show data. So I'm really here to support Scott and the recess part, because when he told me that some schools here don't have recess, I felt this is really an obligation for me to educate about the importance of recess. People think that recess is not important, what kids gonna do, we have PE. That's one of the excuses that I heard. And PE is an equivalent to recess. Recess is not just for physical education, because PE is structured kind of recess. But this is a pediatric association, the pediatrician association, and they this is a summary of a lot of research they've done. The article is 4 pages of recommendations, but you have 4 pages of references to show you all these studies that have been done to show the importance of recess. And recess is very important for the academic and emotional evolution of kids. I mean, I know Nathan, I coach him in soccer. I didn't have to give him drugs during soccer, he did okay. But I still gave him a break even between practices. I think it's very important for kids to interact between each other in a safe environment where you don't have, teachers can watch, but you don't have to tell them what to do, and they can just go around, run, do whatever they want. It helps in their development. They can grasp information better. They go to the class back, and they can have more attention. And trust me, you will see a difference in the academic outcome at the end. I just feel sad when I see a lot of smart kids here, and schools are not doing so well. I know that our kids are much smarter than our achievements, and I think, it's not fair to give it to the teacher to decide whether the kids have recess or not, because I like teachers, I support them, but I think they are under a lot of stress and pressure. They have to achieve a lot of goals that sometimes they take away the recess because they have to finish certain chapter or curriculum. I think recess should be part of the academic day or school day. 30 minutes actually the minimum, if not even 2 recess, each is 30 minutes. And I'm only here to support this because I think this is very important. Uniforms, I've been in 2 types of schools. Some had uniforms, others didn't have uniform. It does have advantages and disadvantages. I do agree that it bears a cost on parents, and I think there should be some kind of warning. And my understanding that we're short in money, so we have to be very smart in where we spend it, and maybe give some time and get more funding if this is going to be important. Thank you for your time.
Dr. Hussein, I have a question.
Okay.
So the villages, the charter school, this was implemented. How did they implement it?
So
making the day longer and getting all the academics in?
They took some time from some of the classes, and they started with at least 15-20 minute recess. Their excuse also was that there is no playground, and they decided that they just have the kids go out and where they play sports. And actually they started getting donations and start funding for a playground and that type. It was only in the 4th and 5th grade part. So the other areas of the school, they had recess only when the kids' grade. So they took some minutes from the other classes. I mean, you can extend the day by 15-20 minutes. You can take 5 minutes from some classes, and that will help. I think 5 minutes from each, you have like really a day from like 9 to 4, half an hour, 2 recess, maybe 1 15 minutes, 1 like 20 minutes. It will definitely help, and it gives the teachers a break. I don't know how teachers can go the whole day without, I mean, I think teachers will like it more than the kids, to be honest with you. So I hope that helps. And actually they did implement it after I went to the board, so they figured. It's only 4 pages, very easy reading, and you can just read the last page. It shows you the recommendations, because, I mean, a lot of studies have been done. I mean, in uniform, they didn't do many, but with recess, a lot of studies have been done. All of them were pro-recess, unstructured activity that is in a safe environment, of course. Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Thank you. Kim Cronin, please.
I know you pulled 8.06 for no action, but I'd still like to speak on it a little bit. I notice it states caulking, joint sealing, and pressure washing services. This is one building for $40,000. We don't pay our current employees $40,000 for a year's service. South Lake High School, if we've got one building there, I'm sure we're going to have more buildings. I think this is, we're trying to save money where we can. Even if we had to hire another employee, it would be cheaper to do it ourselves than to have someone else do it for $40,000. The other issue I wanted to discuss, I seen that the Director of Facilities was advertised again. That was a position that was frozen. That money was used in other areas at the district office for other positions. And when I looked into why it was being posted, is the person that was put in that position resigned, and I'd like to know why we're trying to fill that position again now when it was frozen and we haven't had it for over a year.
Thank you. May I make a clarification? Ms. statement was just made that Article 8.06 for no action tonight. That is not correct.
Discussion.
It was for separate discussion, so I wanted to make sure that board members knew that. We knew that. And on the last item that we had on the recess, Dr. Howard?
Can you bring that back so we can have a look at the policy from a board standpoint?
Sure, sure.
For an overall where we're at.
Sure,
and
on one of our workshops? Yes, I'd be happy to do that. We're good? Okay. John O'Brady, Chief.
I'm not here to speak about uniforms. I wear one and I like it.
You will have one.
I want to thank Dr. Moxley and the board for this opportunity to come before you again to talk about the School Resource Officer Program. Mayor Hosch, who just had to step out, was here in support. She is also an advisor with the Mount Dora High School Key Club, and Councilman Ryan Donovan, one of our Mount Dora councilmen, is in the audience also, and one of his children go to Mount Dora High School. I came before you 6 weeks ago and requested that the Mount Dora Police Department partner with the school board to have its own School Resource Officer Program within its own community. Since that time, we have submitted a contract which mirrors the Sheriff's Office. We have sent our officers to Florida Department of Law Enforcement and State of Florida Attorney General approved School Resource Officer certification courses, which is the same as the FASRO courses, the Florida Association of School Resource Officers. It's all in one association. We have met with Dr. Moxley and her staff, and thank you for your time, Dr. Moxley, and have addressed, I felt, most, if not all, of our concerns. We've had a couple phone conversations since that, and that's why I came here tonight, in case there are any other questions and concerns. The Mount Dora Police Department is a professional law enforcement agency, which is one of only 2 Lake County agencies that is fully accredited law enforcement agency within the state of Florida. Mount Dora Police Department was the first, the Lake County Sheriff's Office is the second. We're the only 2 agencies within the county that are fully accredited. In closing, in the past several months, Dr. Moxley and several of you have been quoted in the paper, and I'll paraphrase. I'm not going to go into every subject. But what stood out to me, the decisions you are making here are in the best interests of the students and the communities they live in. So I stand before you today and ask you to approve the Mount Dora Police Department to have the School Resource Officer Program within the schools of our own community. I think this will prove to be a good decision by the board, which will help to further tie the Mount Dora Middle School and the Mount Dora High School to the community, which can only be beneficial in so many ways to all. And I would like to open it up to any questions. I know last time I answered a lot, and I know some others came up with Dr. Moxley and her staff. So I'd like to answer any other questions. School's a few weeks away. I believe we have everything in that we need to have in and all the certifications. It just, I'd like to call it a rubber stamp, but
Chief,
I'm here.
when we discuss that item, it's been pulled for discussion.
Okay.
We'll ask for questions.
Then I will sit back down and,
Okay.
and wait my turn. Thank you.
Violetta starts with a W-I-L. Okay, you can say it in the mic.
Violetta Wilzinski. My children go to Grassy Lake Elementary School, or they did until January when I pulled them out. I'm embarrassed and ashamed of myself because I allowed the school system to fail my kids. The bullying system that is going on is ineffective. It does not protect our children, and it makes too much paperwork for the teachers to have to comprehend on how to allow our children to manage day-to-day activities, let alone how to keep up with academics. I would rather us not focus on Common Core academics, but Common Core characteristics. My children were puking and vomiting before tests because of how anxious they were. My son went from being a great student to being suicidal in first grade. My youngest daughter has been told that she is gifted, but has no program to go into. And then I got appalled and disgusted when I heard there was going to be no recess in some of our institutions. Our children are being treated worse than prisoners, who are allocated 3 field days every day where they're allowed to go on the yard. Every day. I just confirmed this with an actual police officer who works in our jail systems that goes around the state of Florida. Our children are misbehaving because we're not giving them what they need. We don't give them the characters and build them up confidentially, who they are, and giving them a sense of worth. I volunteer in the schools, and I was there literally every Friday until I got so appalled and disgusted that I put my children into Florida virtual school for their own benefit. Recess is so important that when my children were within my home, I was actually deeming what they needed to do. Every 45 minutes, they were given an outdoor 15-minute break. These are studies that are done by Norway and Finland that state they have 75 minutes a day of outdoor activity time to be free. This is so crucial that it keeps them on balance. It allows them to unwind. If you allow a person to continuously be bombarded with information and never give them any downtime, they're not learning anything. My degree is in Master's of Family and Marriage Counseling. That is what I'm working towards. But I've spent $100,000 towards my education because the school systems failed me. They did not see who I was and what I needed as an individual. They gave me a number from 1 through 18 and said, bleep. If we're going to treat our children like prisoners, then take away the 1 through 18, give them the rest of their serial number, and throw them into that building. Because that is what you are asking for. They are going to have further behavior issues. We're going to need to medicate them even more. Try sitting still for 5 hours straight without being allowed to do anything except for have information thrown at you. A monkey can learn how to paint. They can learn how to fill in a circle. But if we're only going to give our children a black and white world and keep the rainbow away, they're not going to learn anything. And here's the last question I have to you. As much as the children are our future, they in 10 years are going to be the policymakers. Are you prepared for them to have such an inadequate education that they don't know what to do when they're at your end? Will they eliminate us when we're 80 years old because they have no comprehension of what our worth is then? Thank you.
Thank you.
However, I'm here to ask for more. I'm here on behalf of all elementary school students. I adamantly believe that mandatory recess and improved nutrition would greatly improve not only the academic success of children, but the mental health of our children. I would like to read for you an excerpt from sparkinglife.org, which is the website of Dr. John Ratliff, a clinical associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, and author of 8 books on brain functioning, including one many of you may know, which is Spark, the Revolutionary New Science on Exercise in the Brain. His quote is, "Exercise increases levels of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, important neurotransmitters that traffic in thoughts and emotions. You've probably heard of serotonin, and maybe you know the lack of it is associated with depression. What you may not know is that toxic levels of stress erode the connections between the billions of nerve cells in the brain, or that chronic depression shrinks certain areas of the brain. Conversely, exercise unleashes a cascade of neurochemicals and growth factors that can reverse this process, physically bolstering the brain's infrastructure. In fact, the brain responds like muscles do, growing with use, withering with inactivity. The neurons in the brain connect to one another through leaves on tree-like branches, and exercise causes those branches to grow and bloom into new buds, thus enhancing brain function at a fundamental level. Last year, Common Core was introduced to the 2nd grade at St. Mary's Elementary School. That same year, recess was taken away. Not on paper. On paper, they still had it. But in reality, they didn't. I feel that we cannot continue to ask more of our children while providing them with less of a likelihood to succeed. It's not only unfair, but damaging to their future desire to want to learn. Please, I compel you, bring back recess for all elementary school children, not just on paper, but in reality. Use recess as a tool to get the scores that are needed, and most importantly, to maintain and improve children's physical and emotional well-being. Thank you.
We're here when Dr. Howard said he would like us to come back this issue of recess and for a workshop.
Okay.
And I would like you to be a representative for me on that committee if you would be willing to do that.
I would more than be happy to.
All right. We'll
Thank
get
you.
in contact with you. Thank you. And that was the end of the cards. I don't